In Quebec alone, wildfires have burned more than 5 million hectares this summer, a record level of destruction. In the Cree community of Waswanipi, hundreds had to evacuate. Family trap lines and cabins burned.
We're still even just trying to figure out how much are we impacted just by this one fire. Never mind trying to figure out how are we going to, deal with the impacts of future fires.
Now, new research found human-induced climate change made Quebec's fires twice as likely to happen and more intense.
It is alarming and shocking because the impacts of climate change on wildfires are very, very high.
An international group of scientists studied weather data and climate models to see what role climate change played in the fires and what could be in store in the future.
These conditions will not happen every year from now, but they are much more likely to happen in the future. We already know that within the 2023 climate, such event could occur once every 20 to 25 years.
And he says if temperatures keep rising, they could be more frequent. Studies like this are important to help prepare, says this climate data scientist.
And based on that, the decision makers, the agencies, all the organizations that are involved for the policy making try to use the knowledge and the science that are generated by such models and studies and then try to adapt.
Something communities still reeling from this year's fires are already thinking about.
This land loss, it's a loss of a way of life for us. We depend on having access to trap lines. We depend on having access to the wildlife habitats. That means in some places years of recovery.
The study also points to the impact on economic activities like forestry. More than 1 million hectares of commercial forest have been affected, and Quebec's fire season isn't over. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
Our senior climate correspondent, Susan Ormiston, is in northwestern Quebec tonight, looking at the remnants of the big fires there. Susan, what else are we learning about the severity of this summer's fire season?
Well, Adrienne, as we usually think about the risk to human life or the property loss, there's another big phenomenon happening, and that's emissions. Fires across Canada have already produced more than double the usual CO2 emissions, and that's more than almost any other fire season anywhere in the world over the last 2 decades. So Canada's breaking records on those emissions, which we don't want.
What else are you learning there?
Well, as we heard already, the fires here in Quebec were made 50% more severe by the effects of climate change, and scientists here are now looking at the carbon footprint. What changes are happening to a boreal forest, which, historically is known as a carbon sink? That is, it takes in CO2 or greenhouse gases from the atmosphere, but now it's at risk of giving off more than it's taking in. So the scientists are looking at that and what it means for our entire calculation of CO2 emissions.
All right, just a sense of what's to come. You'll have more on that story for us soon on The National.
Indeed.
Susan Ormiston in Quebec tonight. Thank you.